Hello, welcome. It's time for part 2 of my 5-star audit. If you haven't seen the first video, I will link it up there and in the description. Basically, what we did in that video is look at everything that I've ever given 5 stars and kind of identify categories of super specific subgenres of things that I typically love. And in this video, we're going to be reading everything that I have found that also fits those categories. And then in part 3, I'm going to be reading your suggestions. So if you have any while watching this video, please put them in the comments because I'm still building my TBR for that part 3. Up first is Dark and Funny. We're reading Gideon the Ninth. This is a necromancy sci-fi. I'll read you the back because it's what hooked me. The most fun you'll ever have with a skeleton. The Emperor needs necromancers. The 9th necromancer needs a swordswoman. Gideon has a sword, some dirty magazines, and no more time for undead nonsense. It's gonna be dark, it's gonna be funny. I'm nervous because I'm new to sci-fi as a genre, but I think this is like a proper 5-star prediction. Next up is the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. This is cozy fantasy. We are following this society of lady pirates, except they're not pirates on the sea in ships, they're house pirates. So the houses fly with magic. It's also set in Regency England, and I've been told it's very tongue-in-cheek with the way that the Regency etiquette rules are enforced alongside being pirates. So I'm really interested to see how that plays out. Cozy fantasy is a genre that I have absolutely loved recently, so I'm really excited to pick up one of my most anticipated cozy fantasies in this video. Then we have Light from Uncommon Stars. This is like the heaven hell demon situation because we have, I think, a woman who has made a deal with the devil. She needs to find souls of violin prodigies. I've just been hearing so many incredible things about this. Those are the 3 things that we are for sure reading, but I do reserve the right to add more things to the TBR if we find something that fits any of these categories. I'll put them on the screen. These are all the 13-ish categories that I found in my reading that I tend to really love and give 5 stars. So if you have recs for any of these things for part 3, I would love that. Okay, on to book 1. I'm a good chunk of the way into the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, so I thought I would give you an update, and we're gonna unbox this package because this video is about my favorite things, and we got cheese. So for those of you who don't know, my mom is from an island in the Azores called Wisteria. There's another island in the Azores called Scoundrels, and they make the most incredible cheese you will ever eat in your entire life. I cannot overhype this cheese. It is that good. Festivals are really big in the islands, and Easter is something that we celebrate a lot with food. One of the things we always have on Easter is masa sfada. It's like a sweetbread, and I tried to make it last year. I'm not skilled enough to make bread, so I ordered some. I found out you could order some, and I have look at all this bread. I have some incredible sweetbread. I'm so excited. Easter is next weekend, and my friend is coming to visit, and we're gonna eat masa. I'm so happy. I ordered a bunch of cheese, some bread, and a sweatshirt, which is coming in a different package. So I'll show you that. I'll show you that when it arrives too. I've got a couple of different ages of cheese. It gets sharper as it ages. This is like the 3-4 month aged, 7 month aged. I got 2 of these because I think this is gonna be my sweet spot. Then I also got a 12-month aged. It's really sharp cheese. You can get like 24+ month aged cheese. And when I was in Portugal, when I was in the Azores, we got one that was aged a lot, and it was so sharp that I had like a little cut on my lip, like my lips were chapped, and my lip like swelled up huge because it was so sharp. So you have to eat this with bread. You can't just like eat it on its own. It's too sharp, but it's so good. It's like creamy and sharp and fantastic, and it's the best cheese ever. And if you want to buy some cheese, I get it from shopportuguese.com. Okay, well, I got way too excited about cheese and I forgot to tell you about the book. This is supposed to be me telling you about the book while I unbox this, and we just did cheese instead. Anyways, the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels is, if this series, Half a Soul Regency, had a book baby with The Princess Bride. Needless to say, I am greatly enjoying it. I love the way that this Regency era etiquette is bumping up against being a pirate. It's so funny. There are times where someone will be trying to assassinate our main character, and it's a man who's trying to assassinate her. And she'll be like, this is very improper for you to assassinate me while we are alone. Either assassinate me right away or have this conversation in public because this is very improper for us to be alone. It's just like very tongue-in-cheek and very silly, and it's much funnier than I thought it was gonna be. And I'm really liking the little like romance situation that's maybe gonna bloom. We're gonna go from like enemies to lovers, I think is what's gonna happen. I am loving the whole premise. And our main character has this past. Her parents are kind of infamous in the pirate world. Her dad is not a good guy, and her mom, we haven't like really figured out what happened to her mom and how that went down, but she's like living with her aunt, trying to be like a senior member of the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. They're all pirates. The incantation for house flight has been passed down through women. They leave the men at home to tend the children or just not get in the way, and the women have their little pirate meeting, and it's a good time. I'm having fun. It's exactly what I want in cozy fantasy. I will check in with you when I have another update. I just finished reading the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. I always get nervous about 5-star predictions videos because I feel like it's really hard to predict a 5-star, but in this case, this is 110% a 5-star book for me. I loved this so much more than I even thought I would, and I thought I would enjoy it. Obviously, it's in this video, it's a cozy fantasy, it's something that I typically enjoy, but I have also had a lot of cozy fantasies recently that haven't been 5-star perfect reads for me. I think because I'm reading anything and everything that I can find in this sub-genre little category, I'm bound to find some things that aren't quite right for me. This book is kind of unhinged in the way that it is so funny. It's very much The Princess Bride if it were written by a woman. Has some like Monty Python type humor in it. Definitely not going to be for everyone. It's like a Marmite type situation. I think you're either going to love this book or you're going to hate it. So if you're thinking about picking it up, maybe see if you can listen to a sample if you're going to get the audiobook, or like read a chapter in the bookstore before you get it if you're thinking about buying this, because I think you'll know right away if you're going to love it or hate it. And from what I've seen, people are kind of going either way. One thing I do have to mention before I start gushing about how much I loved this is that there is some spice in here, and there is a moment that made me slightly uncomfortable. I mean, this is something that bothered me about like Bridgerton as well, and something that just bothers me about this era in general is that men were so much more well educated in like what sex was than women were. We've seen this in Bridgerton. It's present in here as well, that women are just like given no education, and it's making a comment about that. It's in there kind of for a reason. Our female main character is very much into what is happening, but it's also very clear that she doesn't know what's going on, and so can you really give consent if you don't know what you're consenting to type conversations. So if that's something that you are sensitive to and that you don't want to read in your books, skip this one because that is present in here. It's very clear that she is having a great time, she wants what's happening, but she also doesn't really know what sex is, and so like, can you consent to something that you don't know? So that's the little thing that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, because I haven't seen anyone else talking about that, and I just wanted you to know that that was a thing that existed in this book. I love this. This gave me, like I said, Princess Bride vibes all the way. I love that film so much. I read the book I think last year and really enjoyed it. It's got the same type of humor. It's very over the top. I think at one point our male love interest even says like "as you wish," and they're having like a very similar vibe to the couple in Princess Bride. It's just so funny and so silly because we have these pirates who fly houses instead of having ships, and it's lady scoundrels, and there's all of this talk about the propriety and manners and how to do everything exactly correct, and you can't say the word bedroom, but they're like flirting with each other. It's just a very silly book. I heard a review that called this a rollicking time, and that's exactly the right word for this. Queen Victoria makes an appearance in here, and her character is insanely funny. There's a lot of like Bronte jokes in here, which are very silly. It's just like a very tongue-in-cheek novel, does not take itself seriously at all. If you were wanting a book that is The Princess Bride with a little bit of spice, this is the book for you. I just found out that there are 2 other books in this series, and I don't know if they follow the same characters, if we're following different characters. I think the one that's out now is the League of Gentlewomen Witches, and there's a 3rd one that I'm not sure what the title is, but it's coming out this year. And I desperately want to get my hands on all of these. I was expecting to come away with this as like a solid 4-star read, but it is 100% 5 stars. I had so much fun reading this book. I just had a huge smile on my face the whole time. It's just like very cheeky and very silly and very Monty Python Princess Bride. I had a great time. That's what I thought of the book. Let me talk to you about my sweatshirt. Here she is. This is the flag of the Azores. Açores in Portuguese. I love this sweatshirt so much. I have been wanting to get a hoodie for a really, really long time. I own 2 hoodies. One of them is from high school. It's from the robotics club that I was in high school. Honestly, it takes a very specific vibe for me to want to wear a sweatshirt from high school, and usually that vibe is I'm not leaving the house. And then the second hoodie that I own is a white hoodie with my sorority on it from college. And again, very specific vibe. Like, I have dogs. White clothing does not last very long in my household. She's put in her time. She was a great sweatshirt for me in college. I don't wear it that often, and usually when I wear it, I'm not leaving my house. And I like to cocoon myself. I like to become an egg sometimes, especially when I'm like overwhelmed in a sensory way. I love a hoodie because it quiets my ears. One of the main things that my little neurodivergent brain cannot handle is noise, and that's like the first thing to go when I'm overwhelmed. It starts hurting, like sounds hurt me, and so just the little, even just that just feels so much better. And then I can just do around my house and have a good time. And if I need extra protection, nothing can stop me. Nothing can stop me. So I'm really happy with my sweatshirt. This is the flag for the islands. There are 9 stars because there are 9 islands. And this little birdie, there's a funny story about this bird. The people who discovered the islands, first of all, naming was not their strong suit because the island my mom grew up on, Terceira, means the 3rd, and it was the 3rd island they found. Lazy. So they saw this bird. They didn't actually see this bird. This is a goshawk, which is the Açor in Portuguese, which is why it's called Açores. But this hawk, they thought they saw a goshawk. They named the collection of islands Açores after the bird, but it wasn't actually this bird. It was a kite, a different type of bird. But now we have this bird on the flag. So this is the flag because they wanted to secede from Portugal and didn't quite make that happen, but now we have our own flag. So there you go. There's your history lesson on obscure islands. I am very happy this video is off to an excellent start. We have had a fantastic couple of days. We've been eating lots of quiche Saint-Georges, which is the cheese. Such good cheese, incredible cheese. The 7-month is like my favorite because you can have a meal of it and then your mouth feels a little tingly afterwards, but it's not so sharp that you hurt yourself. I mean, it's a powerful cheese, you know? Sometimes your mouth can't handle all of it. Next book we're picking up is Gideon the Ninth, which is gonna be, I think, a departure. We were in cozy fantasy land. This is like dark sci-fi, but also very funny. I'm in the mood for more funny things, so that'll be fun. I think the tagline on this is so funny. It's from Charles Stross. Lesbian necromancers explore a haunted Gothic palace in space. Exactly what I want right now. So I'm reading this because it is dark and funny. That's one of my favorite things. T. Kingfisher is one of my favorite authors for this. I was just cruising around on Scribd and I saw this book, Princess Floridia and the 40 Flight Tower, which is a fantasy book by the same author. I had no idea this author had written another series in addition to this. I feel like this is the series that everyone knows them for, so I'd be interested to check out their other work. If I like this, let's focus, Katie. This is the book you're reading right now. Okay. I'm excited to see what Gideon's gonna be about. I guess the situation is that she was abandoned on this planet or ended up on this planet when she was a baby. She's kind of like the property of this planet and she's been trying to escape the planet, and she ends up doing that by way of her nemesis. I'm assuming they're the ones who are gonna fall in love, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, let's go read. See you later. Hi, it's Tuesday morning. I'm having my little cup of tea outside with the doggies, but I wanted to give you an update on Gideon the Ninth. I have read 5 chapters, so I'm on chapter 6 now. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna read 1 chapter before I go to bed, and then I was like, oh, just 1 more. just one more. I'll just read one more chapter. And then I did that 5 times. So needless to say, it's very good. We've had the setup, we've met Gideon, we've met her nemesis Harrow. Basically there are 9 planets and each one is specialized in like a different thing. Okay, here, I'll read you this little thing. 2 is for discipline, heedless of trial. 3 for the gleam of a jewel or a smile. 4 for fidelity, facing ahead. 5 for tradition and debts to the dead. 6 for the truth over solace and lies. 7 for beauty that blossoms and dies. 8 for salvation, no matter the cost. 9 for the tomb and all that was lost. So we have like all of the different houses in here. So basically Gideon was dropped off kind of at this planet. Her mother died when she was a baby and basically Gideon ended up on the planet and it took her in. She's kind of like an indentured servant. The planet kind of like owns her as a human and she's a swordswoman. And there are no other people Gideon's age. There's very few people on this planet and they're kind of like hiding that from other planets and we don't really know what happened because there used to be a lot of people and we don't know why there aren't any anymore. So there's lots of little like mysteries to uncover. Gideon's trying to escape. We get to see kind of like an introduction to how the necromancy works, which is really, really cool. Gideon and Harrow kind of enter into this agreement because Harrow needs to leave the planet to go do something. Gideon is kind of like the only swords person and she needs to bring a swords person with her. It's like this opportunity that could really help the Ninth. So I think now we're gonna have a little bit of like a training montage with Gideon because she has to learn how to use this new kind of sword and I'm very excited about that. It's one of my favorite things to see in books is a little training montage. So that's my update. Sorry if the birds are really loud. They're saying a lot of things this morning. I'm gonna finish my tea while the doggies run around and then we'll go to work and I'll see you after for more reading. Hello! I have so much to catch you up on. My friend was here visiting this weekend, so not a lot of updating happened, but a lot of things went on and a book has been finished. First of all, I had such a lovely time this weekend. We hung out with lots of doggies. We went to an arcade. We bought Easter candy. We had a good time. Now Monday, I have the day off from work. I need to clean my whole house, get everything reset for the rest of the week. Before we do that, I need to tell you about this book because it's another 5-star video. I shouldn't be surprised when the books are 5 stars. I knew on paper that this was like the perfect book for me and it followed through so hard. I think I had a lot of misconceptions about what this book was. I'd seen a lot of people talking about it, but the synopsis really does not give you much of anything. I was on board with everything the synopsis said, but I really did not know what the actual premise of the book was gonna be, what the meat and potatoes of this is. I was so pleasantly surprised. The twists, the turns, the necromancy. I just loved everything about this. I'm gonna give you more synopsis than the synopsis gives because I think the synopsis does it a disservice. I'm usually a person who wants to go into a book knowing absolutely nothing, and that's kind of what I did with Gideon the Ninth, but I'm gonna give you a little bit more information, so I'll timestamp this in case you like don't want to know anything that's going on, but I wouldn't count this as a spoiler, but it's not really explained in the synopsis, so technically that makes it a spoiler, question mark, but I'll timestamp it so you can skip if you want. In this world, we have 9 planets. The first planet is where the undying emperor person is. Then all the other planets have houses. So like Gideon is from the 9th house. She's like really not having a good time on this planet. She's been mistreated and basically she just wants to get off this planet as soon as possible. The humor in here is so dark and so funny. The back does a fantastic job of setting you up for the type of humor you're in for. But the content of the book is just incredible because we have this really in-depth magic system with the necromancy. I think it's really smart the way that Tasma Mura has set up this story, especially in a larger series, because this first book really gives us an excellent understanding of how the necromancy works, because the meat and potatoes of this thing that all these people are doing are basically a giant necromancy puzzle where they're learning about different aspects of necromancy and honing their skills. There are 2 main groups of people. We have all the necromancers and we have all the cavaliers. Necromancers are the people who do the magic with dead things. Cavaliers are basically their swords people. They're bodyguards ish, but it's like a much closer relationship than that. The glossary has some beautiful academic paper type situations talking about the relationships of necromancers to cavaliers, and I love a meaty glossary, and it definitely had this. I'm always curious about when I should read a glossary because I want to go into a book blind, but I also get to a point where I'm like, okay, I need some backstory. So with this book, I read the glossary about halfway through, and I thought that was a good point to do glossary reading. So if you're a person who likes to wait to read the glossary, that's when I read it and I enjoyed that experience. So we've got people from all of the different planets. We've got 8 different necromancers, 8 different cavaliers, got a big group of characters. We've got some people that we find on this first planet that they've all gone to. We learn all of their backstories. Everyone's kind of got secrets. Everyone has different relationships. Everyone comes from a different planet, so the cultures are all different. So it feels super gratifying to kind of understand the way that everyone approaches things differently. And meanwhile, we have this like challenge puzzle. There are people dueling other people. It gets gory and there's lots of fighting and action. I was just, every single page I was hooked. I never ever wanted to put this down. This was one of the easiest reads I have ever read. Not easy in the form of like, it's got some dense topics in here and it's high stakes for sure, high action, high stakes, but I really felt like I knew every single person that we covered in here. It just felt so readable. It was so freaking good, and I'm kind of bummed that I read this over this weekend because obviously I wasn't updating you because my friend was here and it was friendship time. There were so many parts where I read and I was just like, she was who? She was who all along? Like, so good. Don't be surprised if you see this in my top 10 books of the year. I'm really excited to go pick up book 2. I actually think this was originally supposed to be a trilogy, and it looks like there's now going to be a 4th book, which I am thrilled about. Can't wait to read more of this author's stuff. This was a huge success. I've never done 5-star predictions video because I think it's so disappointing when something isn't a 5-star if it's in a 5-star predictions video. Even if you really like the book, it's like a 3.5 or 4-star book, 4.5 stars. If it's not 5 stars, it feels worse because you thought it was gonna be 5 stars, if you know what I mean, but that's not what's happening in this video. This video is not missing. That means we have 1 book left to read, Light from Uncommon Stars. I have been reading all 3 of these books at the same time because I have some of them on audio, some of them only physically, some of them both. But when I edit this, I'm gonna group the footage in book 1, book 2, book 3, so if there's any continuity errors, that's why. Okay, on to the last book. I lied, I have one more update. I was coming over to the shelf to put Gideon the Ninth away, and I forgot that I haven't told you about this. Since I love the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels so much, I bought it, immediately lent it to my friend, but I did purchase it, and I got the 2nd book in the same sort of series. This is The League of Gentlewomen Witches, and I believe at first glance it looks like some of the characters from the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels do appear in our table of significant characters, so I think they're gonna make an appearance. People like Constantinople Brown, Ned Lightbourne, Cecilia Bassenthwaite, Assorted Pirates, so it looks like we do have all of these things existing in the same universe, but I think we're mainly going to be focusing on different characters. Also, let's talk about how beautiful these covers are. So although I'm not reading it in this video, I just wanted to let you know that I will be picking it up as soon as I have room in my reading schedule because I am so excited to read more of India Holden. I just had such a good time with the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. Okay, now actually on to the 3rd book. Hello! I feel like all my updates have been outside for this video, and I'm not mad about it. It is 5, we are hanging out outside, we just finished work. Oh, hang on, doggies need water, I'll be right back. Okay, so time for our 3rd book. I am reading Light from Uncommon Stars. I was able to get this from the library, which was fantastic. I'm 23% of the way in. I'm really enjoying this so far. When I initially heard about this book, I didn't think it was going to be for me. The pitch for this book is Good Omens meets A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I love Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I love Becky Chambers' writing in general. And the reason why I'm reading it in this video is because I love the heaven, hell, demon, selling your soul type stories. So it sounds like it should be right up my alley, and I don't know why I never thought it was gonna be for me until now. Our main character, Shizuka, is trying to find the 7th violin prodigy and convince them to sell their soul for success. So she needs to find 7 violin prodigies, and she's like a violin teacher. What's up, baby? We're also following Katrina, who is a young transgender runaway, and she is this like 7th violin prodigy. And then we're also following these aliens in a donut shop, and I think Shizuka and the woman who runs this donut place are gonna have a little romance brewing. So it's got a lot of different things going on, and on paper they don't seem like they would fit together, but I'm like, every time we switch to the donut shop or to Katrina or to Shizuka, it just feels very cohesive. It feels like these 3 stories were meant to be together. So I'm reading this on audiobook and I desperately need to clean my house. So I think we're gonna do a little cleaning montage. I'll feed the doggies dinner and then we'll clean the house and be all ready for when my friend arrives in a couple of days. And then I'll update you when that's done. Apologies if you can hear the dishwasher going in the background. I have placed us in front of sleeping Webster to hopefully make up for it. I feel like that right now. I am so tired. I cleaned the living room and the kitchen and then made the kitchen dirty again by making dinner, which was so freaking good. I was also incredibly warm, so I need to change into something else. I love these exercise dresses. They're from Old Navy. I got them on sale for $30 last year. I have one in every single color that they make, and I will be wearing them exclusively the entire summer. This is all you will see me in. I've also been reading our audiobook. I have never been a person who's been interested in violins in general, but the amount of information that we are getting about the construction of violins and the different ways to play a violin and just like the intricacies of the art form that is violin is incredible. One of my favorite things in life is listening to people talk about whatever thing they're really passionate about. I love seeing people's eyes light up when they talk about that thing that they just love so much. That gives me so much joy. And I'm getting that feeling while reading this book because we're getting to see not just the players of the violins and how much they are attracted to different instruments and how each instrument is different and the way that they play the instrument creates a different sound, but we're also getting now the perspective of the person who makes violins and repairs violins. And oh my god, the way that she talks about that process is just so cool. I also really love the conversations that we're having about like price points of instruments and how people will gravitate towards the look of an instrument because they can tell how old it is, or they'll gravitate towards the label, like the manufacturer, because there are these manufacturers of instruments that are crazy expensive. And I really love the conversations we're having in this book about how just because it's more expensive doesn't mean it's better. There's one part in here where this violin needs to be repaired, and it's a violin that was like bought on eBay. It was manufactured in China. It's not from one of these big brands. Our violin prodigy, like this is her violin and she cares so much about it. The first shop they go to basically refuses to work on it because it's a low quality instrument. It's a Chinese instrument. They don't want to work on it. And then the person at this new shop, after some conversation, some back and forth, agrees to work on the instrument and discovers that it is so much more than it appears. And I just really loved the conversations that we're having about that. We're also getting much further into the selling your soul discussion right now. Our violin teacher who needs this 7th soul is being accused of choosing this as her 7th soul as like a way to feel less guilty because she's a runaway, she's trans, she was in a really rough spot in life and kind of didn't have many options. And so taking that soul, giving her this success in music and this place to belong, the demon is accusing our teacher of choosing this individual because she will feel less guilty about selling Katrina's soul because at least she'll have this place to belong and this successful career for a little bit before she goes to hell. I'm just really loving this book. I'm so happy that this video got me to finally read it. We are all very, very sleepy over here, so I'm gonna cuddle with the boys and go to bed. And I will see you tomorrow. Hello, I have just finished Light from Uncommon Stars. I'm so conflicted on what to rate this book. I think my experience of this book is exactly why I don't like rating books, but since this is a 5-star predictions video, I feel like I have to tell you the rating of the book. I think we're gonna need to talk spoilers in order to fully encapsulate my thoughts on this book, but before we do that, I think the rating that I'm going to give this is a 4. I think it's gonna be 4. I think it's gonna be a 4. I really want to give it a 5 because then all 3 books that we read in this video would be a 5 and it'd be like, yay, 5-star predictions work. But also, it wasn't a 5. And I wish it were. Objectively, I think this is a more important book than the other 2 books I read in this video. But it wasn't a 5-star for me. I'm gonna make a Great British Baking Show reference. You know when Paul Hollywood gives the bakers a handshake? He used to only give handshakes. This is gonna be a really deep cut. He used to only give handshakes when something was like so impeccable that he was like speechless and it was just like handshake was the only thing. Now you'll notice he gives more handshakes because he's kind of changed, I think, in his head his definition of what a handshake should be. And nowadays he gives out handshakes for things that he can't fault, like things that he doesn't see anything wrong with. And that's kind of how I feel about this book, is I think right now I give 5 stars to things that are like so incredible and so perfect for me at that moment in time that they have to be 5 stars. And maybe that's not what a 5-star should be. Maybe a 5-star should be something that I can't fault. Because if that were the case, I think I would give Light from Uncommon Stars 5 stars. But it wasn't perfect for me, even though I think the book itself has more merit than something like the Wisteria Society for Lady Scoundrels. Those are my non-spoiler thoughts. Let's talk spoilers. If you don't want to see spoilers, I'll put a thing up here so you can skip to where that isn't there anymore. I think the reason why this isn't 5 stars for me is because I didn't feel like there were stakes. And that seems like a really stupid thing to say in a story where we are discussing literal damnation in a book. And I think the reason why I didn't feel like there were stakes is because I felt like everything that Shizuka was doing made me feel like she was gonna do the right thing for Katrina. Everything that Katrina was doing made me feel like she was gonna do the right thing for herself and for Shizuka. Everything that Lon and the rest of the Donut Squad was doing, I just felt like everyone was gonna do the right thing. The found family in here is absolutely fantastic and gorgeous and beautiful. This central conflict of, is Katrina gonna have to be damned for eternity? Is Shizuka gonna have to be damned for eternity? I didn't feel like anything bad was gonna happen. I felt like everything was gonna turn out okay in the end because all of the actions that we saw in this book, all of the characters were trying to do the right thing. And I think what would have helped, I understand why this isn't in the book because it's already almost a 400-page book, if we could have seen Shizuka with a different student, one of the students whose souls she did give to hell. That's what I wanted to see because I didn't believe that Shizuka was ever going to turn Katrina over to the demon, because the book tells us that Shizuka is the queen of hell. It tells us that she's damned 6 people before, but it doesn't feel scary because everything that she does is incredibly good and kind-hearted, and she's creating this safe space for Katrina, and she's creating this safe space for Lon and everyone else. I did never feel like she was going to do something bad, even though she had 6 times before. I wanted to see her backstory with one of those students. Could have been the first one, could have been the last one, any of the students. I wanted to see how she handled those situations, and I wanted to see a little bit of her darker side. I think that would have given the story more stakes, which is a weird thing for me to say as someone who loves cozy fantasy, where stakes typically are fairly low. But I think the way that this story was written, it was trying to have stakes, and I didn't feel like it did. A couple more things I want to tell you about that are non-spoilery. I really loved the conversations that we were having here about music. I'm someone who grew up playing music, playing instruments. I really enjoyed the imagery of musical terms applied to non-musical things. I really enjoyed all of that. The conversations about the trans experience were incredible. I deeply appreciate the nuance with which this book handled all of those conversations, because there are characters in here that can alter their physical appearance, and because we're dealing with a soul being traded for something, it would have been very easy to go down a particular path, and I really appreciate the fact that this book acknowledged that path and then chose not to take it, and did that in a very human way. I didn't want to include this in the spoiler section. I want to try to talk about this without spoilers, but it's a little difficult, so I apologize for beating around the bush a little bit. If you've read the book, you know what I mean. There were a lot of things that were kind of just dropped into these more mundane type of conversations towards the end of the book that I was on a walk with the dog. I listened to this on audiobook that I had to stop walking and just kind of like sit with that sentence or paragraph because they were just really powerful in a way that typically I only get that sort of reaction from reading something like poetry. It was a lot said in a small amount of words in a really profound, powerful way, and I just really appreciate this book. I think it is so impressive. Although it wasn't a 5-star for me, I think it is, like I said earlier, the most important of these 3 books. Which means that this video was such a huge win. This is exactly what I needed. Those of you who've been watching all my recent videos know that life has been really rough recently. These 3 books just were perfect, exactly what I needed. I chose all 3 of these books based on those subcategories that we discovered in the 5-star audit video. If you haven't seen that, I will link it in the description. I really encourage you to go watch it because I would love to hear your recommendations for books that I should pick up. You can leave them in the comments of this video, you can leave them in the comments of the 5-star audit video, because I'm going to be doing a part 3 to this little series where I'm going to read your recommendations for books that you think are going to be 5 stars. So if you have already seen the 5-star audit and you just want a reminder, refresher on what the subcategories are, I will put them in the description of this video as well. I would so appreciate if you let me know any books that you have loved that fit in these little subcategory genres that I tend to really love and give 5 stars. This video proves that I really do love all of these different subgenres, at least the ones that I picked in this video. I think also throughout this series, I'm starting to be more aware of the things that I really love in the 5-star books that I have, because I also really loved the music element of Light from Uncommon Stars, and I would love to read more of that, but I don't think I have read enough to actually classify that as a subgenre that I always give 5 stars to, because I haven't read enough books about music. Same with stories like the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. That book and The Princess Bride are the only things that I've read that have that level of absurdity and that type of humor, but I just eat that up. I love that so much. I would love to read more of that again. So please let me know what your recommendations are in the comments. I will have the 5-star audit linked in the description and a list of all the subcategories in case you don't want to go back and watch that. And if you're not already subscribed and you want to make sure that you see part 3 of this little series, make sure that you're subscribed. I would love to have you join our little community. I post every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and I will see you next time. Bye.